to the Bose 3 podcast. Here is your host, fresh off the campaign trail, John Bose.
Hey everyone, John here. I am here with Stacey Monahan, and we are two of the whitest people on the planet at this point. I do apologize. Welcome to the Bose 3 podcast. Stacey and I are going to talk about top 10 things campaigns should be doing. Let's start with Stacey. We first met during the Deval Patrick 1 campaign. What were you doing?
2006. I was the statewide labor coordinator for the governor's campaign.
And then you went on to be a state party executive?
Director. Yep. I was the executive director for 4 years with John Walsh as the chair. And then I went into the governor's administration for the second term.
And we worked together in the governor's administration.
And we worked together in the administration.
So Stacey is one of the big innovators in technology. So why don't we slide this way?
Okay.
There we go. A little bit better. We've got our fake Christmas trees up, which, unless you see my studio, you won't understand why that's a big joke. This is actually, as everyone else refers to it, the living room. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the top 10 things campaigns should be working on in 2019 to get ready for 2020. And I think that prep is like the hugest thing for campaigns.
Agreed.
You can't just decide to run and then run. I think a lot of the candidates that ran in 2018 quickly discovered that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done for prep work. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to our list. So you can see on the left-hand side you have my list, and on the right-hand side you have Stacey's list. And Stacey decided to mess with me. Instead of giving us 10 items, she gave us 8. So we're going to start with my 10 and 9 choice. So let's take a look. Oops, too far. Data management plan, I think, is a huge deal. And the reason behind that is that you've got to know who you want to talk to. If you had tuned in live, last week you saw an interview with Brian Muldoon, and he talked about the whole data management point of view. Unfortunately, Facebook ate that interview, so if you didn't see it live, you're not going to see it. But Brian had a lot of good points about planning out your strategy, making sure that you know what your win number is. Do you want to talk about win numbers as far as how important they are?
It's very important to know how many voters you need to speak to, and then develop a plan to get to all of those people.
So it's like a strategy.
Yep.
Before you get started, you got to see if you can actually win it. Mm-hmm. So that's my number 10. My number 9 on the list is attend every single event and be seen. I think it's a huge deal to make sure you're out in the community. You got to be able to go to every single event so that people know you and get to know you, not just in the political world, but also in the social world. So now we're going to talk about our number 8 choices. So my number 8 choice is email list, and Stacey's number 8 choice is party organization engagement. For me, making sure you build out your email list is a huge deal. Every time you make contact with somebody, you should be asking for email. And you need to put that into organized system, such as MailChimp or Constant Contact. It's a huge deal. Stacey, what are your thoughts on your number 8?
So by party and organization engagement, I mean whether it's your local town committee or ward committee, the state party, just getting involved in the democratic structure. The structure is really important when you're running. Post-primary is really important for the general election, and just making sure that you have relationships with people, you know who people are. There's a lot of opportunity to meet some hardcore activists. So if you're thinking about running for office, and maybe you're like the president of your PTA, but you've never done anything that's political, it's a really good opportunity to meet some people that have a lot of skin in the game and a lot of experience with traditional political campaigns.
So if you've got a district, let's say you're running for selectman, and say you're a Democrat, you should go visit the town committee.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If
absolutely.
on the other hand you're running for state rep, and let's say you've got 3 towns, you should visit each one of those town committees.
Yes, for sure.
Now, in addition to that, there are also other organizations like the Plymouth County Democratic League, South Shore Democratic Caucus, that are sort of basically a list of people that you need to go.
Yep.
And would you say people should have a stump speech ready?
I think at this point, just introducing yourself and having casual conversation. I don't think you have to put a lot of pressure on yourselves to get it done, but I definitely think meeting people now is important if you're considering a run.
And getting the feedback, so you start the conversation.
Getting the feedback, yeah. I don't think you need a stump speech, but I think you need a few points about why you're considering launching a campaign.
And the other thing about it is when you're going to these committees, by saying that you're putting your name in the hat, I'm sorry, your name in the hat.
Yeah. In the ring.
In the ring, your hat in the ring. You'll start getting input. People will start giving you advice and walking you around. So let's take a look at our number 7 and our number 8. And I think we're going to have a repeat on this one. So my number 7 is clerk work, which I will explain, and earned media. Those are 2 good ones. So let me explain. My thought is that if you're going to run for office, the 7th thing you should do is figure out what paperwork you need. Because financial filings, signatures, getting on the actual ballot, key things. We have had more than one candidate not get on the ballot because they weren't A, in the right location, B, didn't have enough signatures, C, were running against a jerk who just wanted to be a jerk. And the other thing that catches everyone is the financial filing.
Yes.
So it's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. And the Office of Campaign and Political Finance is very, very, very helpful. They don't
Super
want
friendly.
you to be in trouble at all. So you can call up and people will walk you through the whole process so you can avoid getting the nasty letters in the mail.
And the thing about it is, like Stacey said, they want to help you. It's not a combative relationship.
No.
It's very much a supportive relationship. So let's talk about, so like I said, get the paperwork done. Figure out what paperwork you need to have. Getting on the ballot, rules of the actual office you're running for. Some of the offices have actual requirements. And then most importantly, financial part of it. Stacey, you've got, let me bring that up, it is the earned media. This is huge.
Yeah, so taking every opportunity to write letters to the editor of your local paper, just getting yourself out there in the public space, call Bose and be on a webcast. Any opportunity you can to get free media is a really important thing to do for 2019.
So one of the individuals I'm going to have on is Joe. What show does he do in Boston?
Joe Heisler?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Around Boston?
The name's escaping me, but it's a great show.
Joe Heisler has this show that's awesome. For any candidate that's running in the greater Boston area, you need to go see him, and he'll basically do an interview. We're going to do a sit down with him, and he's going to talk about the things that you need
That's great.
to do
That's
prep
really good.
work. Because community access TV, I know everyone thinks it's a joke. It's a huge deal for campaigns.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, like you were just saying, is free media of the papers.
Yep.
Social media is a huge deal, but if you have something that runs in your local paper that has your actual name in it, and then you can put it on your social media post, huge deal. I mean, we had great success with the Bradley campaign with that one interview from Hingham.
Yep. It's really important and free.
And free. So our number 6 option, I have got an event calendar. And then Stacey has community presence. What do I mean by an event calendar? There are hundreds of events going on. And you need to be able to keep track of what events you want to go to and what events you don't want to go to. We're talking birthday parties for local activists, town leaders. We're talking the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary Club. You need to put together a calendar and have a sit down with your team to figure out where you're going to be and what events are important. You may want to use a spouse to go to some of these events. Splitting up the spouse and family members makes it easier. I do want to warn everyone, and Stacey, you know this is a huge time suck. If you want to run for office, you are basically giving up your life.
Yes. Especially if you want to win.
If you want to win, yes. So you need to have a sit down before you do any of this with your family and make sure they're on board.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a huge
the buy-in from your whole family and the support of your family is really important, because especially, I mean, it feels overwhelming, I think, at the beginning when you're trying to launch a campaign, but towards the end of the campaign when the real pressure is on, It's a whole different level of stress that your whole family goes through. So you want to make sure that you have buy-in.
So like I said, you want to put together a campaign calendar. You want to make sure you reach out to all the local activists, know what events are going on and when you're going to attend and if you want to attend. One thing that I will say, very important, if you're going to be at an event, don't advertise it on your Facebook page. Because if you have a opposition person, they're watching your Facebook page. So if you go say, hey, I'm going to the Kiwanis dinner, they'll show up at the Kiwanis dinner. So you go to the Kiwanis dinner, then you post that you're at the Kiwanis dinner.
That's important. Yeah, that's important.
You don't want to advertise stuff for other people. Now, Stacy, yours, let's talk about your option 7. Let me just bring it up again. Wants to bring up. So that is community presence.
Which I think overlaps with yours, attend every event and be seen. But yeah, just having that presence in your community that people know who you are and have respect and know kind of what you stand for, I think is really important.
Which, I mean, I know this is a political thing, we're running for office, but you need to be in the community.
Yes.
We're talking baseball games, soccer games, PTA
Easter egg
meetings.
rolls.
Yes, exactly.
Christmas tree lightings. The
Christmas
whole
tree,
thing.
everything.
Yeah, it's
Be
really
there.
important.
And I want to stress this, take pictures. You need to be a little bit of a sadomasochist because you need photos of everything. Selfies, I know it sounds foolish, but selfies are a huge deal.
And I think one of the most important things, especially for like a state rep, senate, or a more local race, is having validators in the community that can attend some events with you. Soccer coaches and librarians and people that have a lot of credibility in the community. When they're lending that credibility to you and saying, I'm bringing around candidate X, that goes a long way in building your support.
So you want to have the person basically what's called walk you around.
Yes.
Where basically they are literally introducing to every single person. If you go to an event and stand in the corner, you have completely wasted your time.
It's not worth it. Stay home.
So my number 5 is social media strategy, and Stacy's now. Oh, look at that! We lined up.
Dang. We're a match.
We're a match. So this is a huge deal, I think, because social media has become hugely important.
Yep.
It's cheap, it's free, unless you want to pay for it, but you need a plan. And the biggest thing that I keep stressing to candidates is you got to convert. So if somebody likes a comment, a post, something you put out there, you need to follow up with them and say, hey, please sign the pledge card. Because a like, a share, or a comment does absolutely nothing if it doesn't end up in your GG.
Translating it into your data management plan.
Yes, exactly. Some of the things we did for the last couple campaigns, we were doing selfie videos.
Yes.
We had
People love.
a few issue blogs that we put out there. The video seems to be taking off. Now, what are your thoughts on paid versus organic?
Obviously, if you can get organic and build a real following and get traction, that is ideal. But I think most people have to resort to paying for some of it or boosting some posts to get more visibility, particularly at the beginning.
And this once again goes back to your data management plan, making sure that, like the first thing I said, you have a plan of who you're trying to target, because Facebook and Twitter will allow you to upload the voter file. So if you have an actual strategy and a target, it makes the world easier. What I noticed is that if you've got an organic base that you get a lot of followers, they instantly share stuff.
Yep.
You can see a jump of thousands fast.
Yeah.
So we had did interviews with about 7 of the 13 candidates, and 2 of the candidates immediately had their teams share it. And they shot from like 100 views to 1,000, 2,000, and as they finished out at 10,000. So that's a huge deal, is making sure your actual community is engaged.
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at our number 5. Do you have anything else for social media?
No.
And let's go to number 4. Okay, I did campaign schedule with budget, and then you did fundraising. So the reason I say you need to have a campaign schedule with a budget is that you will not have all the money in the world. So you need to know what you want to spend money on.
Yes.
So scheduling out what mailers you want to do, what videos you want to do, if you want to go on TV, if you want to do radio.
Yep. Any advertising.
Any campaign staff you want to have. You need to sit down and plan that out in advance,
Yes.
and then do the fundraising to match that.
Yes.
I always point out campaigns have a great going out of business sale. If you've got any money left in the bank at the end, you did something wrong.
Yes.
Most times you're barely coasting across the finish line.
And that's right.
And you bring up
That's very
fundraising.
right.
That's a huge deal.
Fundraising is a huge deal, and it's most candidates' least favorite thing to do, and it is the driver, obviously, of the campaign. So I think John and I, we both come from like the power of the grassroots, and the person-to-person strategy and the field strategy as being like the predominant thing in a campaign that makes it most effective. But none of that works without money, and so there is a real part of it that has to get done, and that's asking your family and friends. Like, that's usually the first step, is making a list of 100 people that you know that are your friends and
call.
family, and calling them and asking them to start seeding your campaign.
And you have to kind of lay aside time in your campaign week
Yes.
to call people.
Yes, every day.
And this is kind of a team effort. It's not just the candidate
That's
asking.
right. That's right.
It's a combination of the candidate asking and having a staff member then do the
The
follow-up.
follow-up, and if you can build a little finance committee that are people in the community that have access to people that have some means and are traditionally want to give to campaigns, and using your own personal network. I mean, I think generating new money into campaigns that haven't been there previously is very, very powerful.
So one of the things you also want to do is look at the donation lists. So people who live in your community that donate to similar candidates, you want to ask them. There's nothing good about this.
People don't like it.
People don't like this. So a lot of times what will happen is the candidate will have a partner, and they'll lock the partner and the candidate in the room, and the partner will actually call every single number on the list, and when he gets somebody or she gets somebody, she hands the phone over to the candidate and they start talking.
That works really well. I
It
think
works
that's
really
like a
well.
really effective.
There is
way
nothing
to
good
do it.
about this. It's just you've got to do it.
But it is important. Just so you have all the options to do.
Because you get to the end, you have no money.
to
There's
run the
nothing you can do.
best campaign that you can. Yeah.
Best candidate in the world is not going to be able to finish if they have an empty bank account. Okay, so number 3. I've got supporter network and you've got volunteer engagement. Almost
Basically
the same thing.
Yeah, basically the same.
So campaigns are driven by volunteers and money.
Yes.
It would be great if they were just driven by volunteers.
Yes.
Before you get started, I always say you got to have a strategy. Okay, somebody says they like you. What's the next step? They say, okay, they're going to support you. You're going to get them on your database. You're going to engage them, give them some options of things to do, and then start moving them forward. What should happen is you should be able to migrate people from basic to expert over a course of time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with all the technology that campaigns are using now, it's easy to lose focus of some of the simple things that don't require technology to really bring people in the door. So not everyone is going to use kind of the minivan and go canvas. Not everyone's going to do that. As much as we would love everyone to go door to door, that just isn't the reality. So having things at your headquarters that people can do that are not going to phone bank and not going to canvas, but maybe they can do fundraising thank you cards or those kinds of things. Organize canvas packs, make copies, do data entry. All of those things are kind of the lifeblood of a campaign, and just having tasks available for people at every level, kind of meet people where they are and welcome them and engage them and make it a very welcoming atmosphere and express extreme gratitude all the time.
So I just want to point out, if you are a field organizer and you are spending all your time on your computer, you are not doing your job. You should be greeting volunteers and engaging volunteers. Anytime you have something you need to do on the computer, see if you can get a volunteer to do it for you.
Yeah.
Because your job is to basically greet them, make them feel comfortable, make them
want to come back.
enjoy the experience, make them feel like they are valued. So I hate visibilities. I hate
Me too.
lawn signs.
Me too.
But these are entry-level drugs. It is very important to understand that most people will not immediately start calling strangers on the phone.
Right.
So having people do visibilities is an important part of any campaign. But you can't just let them stop there. You've got to be able to say, hey, here's the next level up. Please help us engage. A lot of times what I would do is I'd do a visibility in a community at a specific section, and then I'd have canvas packs with me. So I'd say, we're doing a canvas. After the visibility, would you mind knocking on 10 doors? Now, a lot of people will go for the 100-door packet. You can't break people that way.
No.
You want to get to the 100 doors, but you got to start slow.
Small.
So volunteers are huge. Money and volunteers are huge.
Volunteers, and just that whole management strategy of feeding people.
Feeding
I think it's very
people,
important.
huge deal.
I think it's very important to have
Thanking them.
in the gratitude. I think you cannot thank people enough who are giving of your time. I ran for office a long time ago.
In a distant galaxy.
And it was amazing to me. I think one of the things that I took away from my experience was that a lot of the people initially when I announced my candidacy that I thought would be like my core volunteers were not, just for whatever reason, life circumstances, whatever. And I met people I had never, ever met before that ended up giving thousands of hours of their time volunteering. And just like that, thanking them and making it a fun place to be, and building a community within your campaign is just, I mean, I have some of my closest friends in my whole life from campaigns, so it's
a really bizarre experience. So campaigns are like a time capsule.
Yeah.
So you enter into a campaign, you start working with a lot of people, and you get a very intense experience. And these people become vital to your life.
Yeah.
And the campaign ends, you either won or lost, but regardless, you need a couple days to regroup, and then all of a sudden you start missing them. The weirdest experience was when I was on the Obama campaign, and I'm working with a volunteer, Susan was her name, and we literally met 3 days before, and it was Susan's birthday. And I say, happy birthday, I didn't even know it was your birthday. And she goes, how did you not know it was your birthday? I was like, Susan, I literally just met you. But we had spent like almost 72 hours together.
It's very
so
intense.
It's a very intense experience, a lot of fun. It's kind of a little bit of a drug. Okay, so let's look at our number twos. Oops, and mine is a little bit too far down. We're going to move that up. Oh, you get to see that I have my number one as well. Okay, let's see what Stacy's number two. Okay, so I do volunteer funnel. I'll explain what that means, and Stacy's got data management. Volunteer funnel is basically what we were talking about. When you make first contact, how are you going to move them through the process? You're going to make first contact. You will have people that are going to just vote for you. That's all they're going to do. Nothing you can do about it.
What you need.
What you need. You need more of those than volunteers. There is nothing wrong with that. See if you can get them to take a volunteer, to take a bumper sticker, a lawn sign. If they say yes to that, you then move to, hey, would you like to join us for a visibility? Or we're having a meet and greet. Why don't you come with a couple friends? They say yes to that. Hey, we're going to have a campaign meeting. Say yes to that, and you start moving them through. It has to be an actual systematic thing. Yep. And people are going to fall off at different points, and that's fine. But you need to make sure that you're trying to move people forward, because you need at least 10 super volunteers that are like your go-to people.
Right.
And then let's talk about yours. You have data management, which I had as my number 10. You have as a number 2. Why do you have it so high?
Because I think you need to know who you're talking to, who you need to talk to, and then a plan to get to them early on. I think that's incredibly important. I also think as you're phone banking and door knocking, the more detailed notes that people can put on the sheets and the more people you have to actually follow up on that is important. In my experience, most people won't say like, oh, I want a lawn sign if they don't mean it. Or I want to help. How can I help if they don't mean it? And I think people get hurt if they say they want to help and then no one reaches out to them.
They get angry.
They get
really
mad.
angry.
And
so one of the things that if you saw the Brian interview, he spoke about, which is hugely important, is collecting data is great, but if it's not put into use, it's a waste of time. Yeah. So making sure, like you said, Stacey, is that you get it and then you act on it.
It's really, really important.
Which is another key function of a field organizer.
Yes.
Is making sure that they're getting the data and they're able to get a hold of people.
Yes.
Follow-up is huge. Okay, we're getting to our last one. Okay, you already saw mine. Mine is fundraising. And Stacy is...
Issue organizing.
Okay. Mine, I put it as number 1 because it is lifeblood. You cannot do anything without money. I hate money. I hate the fact that you have to fundraise, but we do not have publicly financed campaigns. So you need to do it. So that's why it's number 1.
I have issue organizing because for an off year, I think it's a great way to keep kind of your team engaged. I think it's a really nice way to get people that have never done politics before interested. So if it's the Women's March that's coming up, or if it's getting involved in like Mothers Out Front, or some gun violence prevention groups, and really organizing your team around things that are important to you and building skills that can translate easily into your run.
And also localizing it.
Yes.
So like Marshfield, we've got dog park that we're working on.
Yeah.
We have sidewalk issues. We have huge seawall problems. And just opioids in general, making sure you're having conversations. What you're saying is have engagement.
Engagement, yeah. Get the issues that are really important, that drive you and that resonate with the people that want to volunteer in your campaign. And use it as a way to affect change, number 1. And number 2, really build those skills for your team.
So let's just take a quick back look. So my number 10 and number 9, my number 10 is data management plan. My number 9 is attending events and being seen. And then your number 8.
My number 8 is party and organization engagement.
And then I've got email as my 8. What's your number 7?
Earned media presence.
Which is a huge deal. And like I said, we're going to have Joe on. We're going to talk about that. And I've got, make sure you do the paperwork, the clerk work.
Yes, I have community presence.
Community presence, and I got the event calendar. Basically, they're very similar. Make sure you know every event that's happening in the community. I've got number 5. What do you got?
I have social media strategy. I think they're the same thing.
The same thing. And then we have 4. I've got the campaign schedule and budget, making sure that you spend down appropriately.
And I have fundraising.
Fundraising. And then I have the number 3, supporter network.
And volunteer engagement.
These are hugely important.
Very important.
Number 2 is volunteer funnel.
I have data management.
And number 1 for me is fundraising.
And issue organizing.
What was your favorite campaign of all time?
Well, I would have to say Deval Patrick 2006 was my favorite campaign of all time.
Okay, awesome. Why was it?
The energy and enthusiasm. I think, Governor Patrick and John Walsh and Doug Rubin.
The super team.
And engage people in a way that people hadn't been engaged in politics in a long time. And really kind of move the needle about not only how you should campaign and do politics, but also how you should govern. And so for me, it was just like a life-changing experience.
It was an awesome campaign. It was a mind-blowing. And the thing that was amazing about it is, first of all, campaign was just straight hard work, and we got it done. But then on the actual election night, I don't know if you remember, the entire country turned blue.
Yeah.
It was like you're sitting there, and we had totally been working on our campaign, totally forgot about the rest of the country. And you're looking up, this state blue, that state blue, governor. It was an awesome feeling.
That was pretty great.
Also had a really awesome song.
A really awesome song, which I have on my playlist.
So if somebody is interested in getting involved in campaigns or running for office, what do you think is the most important thing for them to do? So let's start with the person who wants to get involved with a campaign.
Find someone in your local community. Even if you don't have a candidate that's been identified yet, I think it's really important, especially for female candidates, for people to be asked multiple times to run for office. And so I think if you see someone in your community that is kind of a star, but not looking for any, recognition, or not looking really to run for office, approaching them and...
You want to slip in so that I can get on camera?
Approaching them and encouraging them to run, encouraging them to think about it is really important. And if you're looking to get involved in a campaign, you should really think about if you should be the candidate.
So one of the biggest problems is that people don't think they can do the job. And one of the best quotes I heard from John Walsh was, when women run, they win 90% of the time.
Right.
When men run, they only win about 60% of the time. And the difference is that when men run, they think they can do the job. And when women don't run, it's because they don't think they can do the job. And his whole point is, have you ever known a guy to do something that he shouldn't have done just because he didn't think he could do it?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, no, men do that all the time.
And our government is better, I think, when it's, more broadly representative
Totally.
of the people that live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So women,
So
Run.
your advice for somebody who wants to run, who's thinking of running, is just to run.
run. Yes, absolutely.
And your advice for somebody who's thinking of working on a campaign is,
Run.
if you can't find somebody to run, run.
Run.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stacey, you do consulting. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Through my email address.
Yeah, go for it.
It's Stacey, STACEYM at octagonstrategy.com.
And that will be in the show notes. So what do you think? You want to run for office?
Someday.
Okay, so this is John and Stacey, and
Marissa,
say bye, Marissa.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
thank you, John.
You're welcome.
You have been listening to the Bose 3 podcast. Show notes are available at bose3.com. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the campaign trail.